Welcome, everyone. Thursday night. We are back. We missed a week. You miss 1 week, and it feels like you've been gone for like a year. Am I crazy?
I know,
Because I
right?
haven't been here forever.
It's not just you. I feel exactly the same way. We skipped a week, even though I was the only proponent of saying, let's do it. But of course, we had priorities. We kind of decided to recuperate a little bit, get our program tight, and find really interesting topics for you guys to cover. I'm sure you will cover them, Josh.
Yeah, and Jimmy will be here. This is a nice little opening. So Jimmy is coming home late from doing what everyone should do this weekend, which is go see the Batman. So he had just got out of the theater. He is driving home. I had a chance to see it on Tuesday night. I went to that early kind of fan screening. And as a huge Batman fan, a huge comic book fan, I think it is really, really fantastic. I understand, similar to Dune, where it won't be for everyone based on the length. It's about 10 minutes longer than Dune.
It's that long?
It's 2 hours, 56 minutes. It's very
long.
Wow. It is very unapologetically 70s noir, dark detective. It was 100% for me. It's my kind of movie. I am seeing it again tomorrow night.
I'm seeing it on Sunday.
Oh, you are? That's awesome, man. I didn't know that. That's fantastic.
Can you do me a small favor? Can you describe this Batman in one adjective, spoiler free? Him himself as character.
The character, not the movie, the character.
With the character, yes. Introspective, raw, rugged.
I like introspective. I would say damaged.
Ooh.
I would say
You're getting me hyped, man.
I would say damaged, and I will not spoil anything here, guys. I want this to be, but I want to say a couple things. It's a 3-hour movie, so that will kind of work for some, not for others. I'm a huge I'll sit for 4 hours. I love that kind of stuff. I'll say a couple things though. There are a couple individual scenes in here that I think are probably some of the best Batman scenes we've ever seen in live action. There's 3 in particular I think of that are for someone like you, Ben, or others who've read those comics, grown up with them, are you're gonna see it and be like, that they nailed that moment.
That's a pretty bold statement, man.
I think so. I think that you'll like it, Ben. I'll be very curious to hear your thoughts, because you have very introspective, detailed opinions on things. You don't just kind of go for the gut emotion.
Right.
I think, knowing you, that you're gonna like this. I don't know if you'll love it like I did, but I think you're gonna like it.
I'm sure I will. Just picking up your vibes on it, and you're a huge Batman fan. I got the feeling I will. And I love Matt Reeves.
Yeah, and what I really loved about it, as we get rolling in here, hello everyone, good afternoon, good evening, and for some, I should say. One thing I will say about this movie, for folks who are on the fence, if you're a Batman fan, you should see it. That's obvious. But if you're on the fence, Josh, I've seen so many Batman movies. This is going to feel the same, in my opinion. And this is a credit to all the directors, past, present. Somehow every Batman movie feels completely fresh and on its own. And I think this reigned true for me here. It feels very different. You guys have heard people talk about how, hey, this is the most detective-y Batman.
Right.
It is. It's a true statement.
See, that's the only thing I was kind of cautious about, that the Matt Reeves doesn't try to rekindle the same candle that Chris Nolan did.
We'll just discuss in detail another time, but I think he does some things intentionally different that I really love. I don't want to spoil it for you, though, because I want you to see it for your prize.
Guys, everyone dies in this movie. That's it. It's been
it's a standalone for sure. Yeah. But back to, now that we've let folks come in, Star Wars. This has been one of those periods in Star Wars where we have it's been after a big show, which was Book of Boba Fett. We've had some High Republic novels come out. We're now kind of in that lull period where more slower stories are coming out, more more hint at the future. Kenobi is obviously getting closer and closer every day. We're in March, guys. I mean, we're in March. We're 2 months away. 2 months away. Bad Batch season 2. When is it coming? So much to look forward to. But today, we're going to take a second, revisit some of the trending topics of the last couple weeks, and maybe deep dive on some others. There's 2 main items that I'm excited to talk about today. One of which is some rumors on the High Republic TV show. I made a video on this about 9 days ago. I want to revisit that here with the group and talk about it. And then I also want to talk about, it's really a broad topic, but canon, new canon specifically, and handling legacy characters. You know, we've had some really successful stories. We have more coming. Should we leave good enough alone? You know, just a whole range of topics there I'm excited to get into. So that's where we're going to be at today. Before we get in there, though, let's pass it over. Ben, what have you been up to in Star Wars? You've been gaming, you've been reading. What have you been focused on for the last couple weeks?
So I'm trying to push through my final hours of the Knights of the Old Republic. I finally made it to Korriban as my last planet. You travel different planets, Josh. Yeah. I'm explaining for the benefit of Josh who hasn't played the game yet. You go to different planets and then you pick your final destination. If you played your Mass Effect kind of games, you will understand the formula. And I'm on my final chapter there. It's that moment of excitement. It's like, all right. It's like you want to get to the ending because you kind of want to be over with this game because you want to move on to the next one. You feel me? It's like it's been a great journey. You're there, but you kind of feel like already it's beginning to slow down. Like, okay, I want to say goodbye to this game, move to the next one. So playing a little bit of KOTOR, continuing with my assassin character in the Old Republic. I'm still, as I'm playing solo, I'm talking to myself. I'm like, are Josh and Jimmy going to join me someday in this lifetime? Like, are they going to start popping characters like just join me there? So I'm doing a little bit of that. In terms of reading, to be honest with you, on one side, I really want to like devour all the latest High Republic stuff, but at the same time, I'm not doing it because I did feel a little bit like burnt out on that reading, and I don't want to force it myself. I really want to enjoy the content first and foremost, because it will even show when you review something, it will show the audience whether you're doing it as a quick rush job or whether you're coming from a port of like, hey guys, I really absorbed this book. I enjoyed it. Let me give you my 2 cents on it. So I kind of switched gears a little bit, and I'm reading my second trilogy in Dungeons and Dragons, Dragonlance books. It's called the War of the Twins trilogy. Loving it so far.
That's great. And, you know, just to chime in with you, I have been, you know, I bet some folks are wondering, like, you know, Josh, we haven't seen your review yet for Midnight Horizon or for Mission Disaster. And I just have not had the time or the focus recently. And to Ben's point, I've been afraid of just rushing through it to get a video out. Right. Because you're not going to get my honest. Now, there are times where, like, the book is out and I have a ton of time and ability to focus on it, and I'm very excited. But with these 2 books, I've been so busy with work stuff and personal stuff that it's just been very hard for me to find time. And I'm resisting the urge to just like mindlessly listen in the background just to put a video out. But early on in Midnight Horizon, I've started it. I just have some more ways to go, but it has just taken some time. February was crazy from a work perspective, and I don't know about you guys, chat, but like there's been a lot of video games out recently, like Midnight, the new Horizon Forbidden West, Elden Ring. I've been playing both. Nice. You know, this is one of those, we haven't had like really exciting video games in quite some time because of COVID. So I've been enjoying that as well. But it's been hard for me to keep up. The High Republic, one thing that we praise it for is its kind of content. It's quantity of content and it's interest in exploring side characters, etc. But sometimes they hit when you're busy and it's hard to keep up. I know I hear it from chat too, where it's like, oh my gosh, there's so many books and comics, I can barely keep them straight. So it has been a dizzying last couple months. Let's talk about books. Let's start with books. Let's see. Okay. All right. This looks good here. So recently, if you guys aren't aware, we had a new book, a new canon book confirmed about our friend Obi-Wan Kenobi. Now, as far as I know, this isn't meant to directly tie into the show in any way. It's just another kind of early Obi-Wan story. It's called Padawan. You can see I have the artwork here behind us. And I'll go ahead and pull the article up from StarWars.com. One thing that this announcement got us thinking about was...
Who is the writer?
The writer is...
Kirsten White, right? It says
Yep.
Kirsten White, okay.
Yes. And there have been books of young Obi-Wan, Master and Apprentice. There is Brotherhood, which is coming out later this year. Is that the title of the new Anakin and Obi-Wan solo duo Clone Wars era book? I think it's called Brotherhood. You guys correct me if I'm wrong.
Hold on one second. Googling now.
But it got us thinking here. With these canon, I'm going to call them like legacy characters, right? There's these characters that have such a heritage with the audience, such an on-screen presence that they have like an elevated status in the community. Obi-Wan is one of them, right? Obviously there since the beginning.
Right.
And for prequels fans as well. I mean, he defies eras. He's one of the absolute favorites. And it got me thinking about, are these the kind of stories that I want them to tell in Star Wars books? We've had so many established arcs via the Clone Wars, the movies, and via other books. Do we need to keep visiting with these characters? And that's what I wanted to start us with tonight. But are you excited for another early young Obi-Wan story, or do you want them to maybe visit with other characters? Now, there's always the opportunity, of course, to surprise me, where a story comes out and I'm not like, oh, do I really need to see young Obi-Wan? And it's like, oh man, and another great story to add to his repertoire. But let's start there. What are your thoughts on the new Obi-Wan novel coming soon?
Guys, I'm going to be coming out from my specific angle as a fan, where I'm going to be very biased based on what I like. Josh, what are we pulling out here? This is we're speaking.
I have this is the Kenobi. I believe you wanted to pull up the novel page. I believe
the novel. Yeah.
Apologies. Let me get that up. I'll keep this up as you keep going.
Yeah. So basically, guys, I'm gonna be coming at this question in a very specific manner, in a very biased manner. I think it all centers around what we personally enjoy and love about Star Wars. We gravitate towards certain characters, right? Sometimes we gravitate towards certain time periods. As far as Kenobi goes, as far as those legacy characters centered around clone era are, I want that. I am excited. It's like I don't discriminate or pick which character from clone era I like more, whether it's Qui-Gon or Obi-Wan Kenobi. Just give me that. Whether it's going to be good or not, that's a big question mark. It always is with this kind of stuff. I think the best way to go into it is without any preconceived notions, what you expect from your favorite character. When it comes to, we were talking about sequel era, right? They were saying that there's a new Luke Skywalker book is coming out. And I think you and I have spoken about it off screen, is that I'm less excited about that. I want to tie it into this Kenobi book, where I think our relationship with what books are coming out, what Canon wants to explore next, heavily depends on what our biases and interests are within this huge franchise, right? Because we have stuff that was handled by George Lucas. We have stuff which is tackled by Disney. We like these parts over here. It's a very nuanced and layered interaction that we have with the franchise, right? Yeah. And the reason I wanted to talk about this book for a second is John Jackson Miller. He's a popular Star Wars author. I was super excited about this Kenobi book. Obviously, guys, for those of you who are not familiar, it's a Legends book, which came out quite a while ago. And I was super hyped about it. I was like, what's not to like? It's Obi-Wan Kenobi. He is on Tatooine. This one came out in 2013, a year or two right before they completely scrapped the expanded universe and said, no more. This is going to be one of the last books that you're going to get. And I was very excited. But when it came out, surprisingly, the blueprint on the paper, the concept was so strong, so powerful, but the execution just wasn't there. Like the author, for some very odd reason, whether he was controlled by Del Rey, and guys, we're talking about pre-Disney stuff here. This book was actually conceptualized and written before Disney. So I was still wondering who kind of positioned this author to write this kind of story, because his PTSD in connection to the Jedi Purge and the Order 66 is nowhere to be found. His training with Qui-Gon's Force Ghost is not there for some odd reason. We never discuss his failure to save Anakin, right? His promise as a mentor, as a master, delivering his Padawan and showing him the ways of the Force is never discussed. It's like some random adventure. And comparing it with the book that is about to drop. So what's the attitude here? How do you approach it? What is the excitement level here? My personal take is, look, take it with a grain of salt. Don't have super high hopes, expectations, or thoughts on like, hey, I think it should be this way, and that's the only way I'm going to like it. Because I didn't do it for this book. I was very open-minded. I was like, hey, I'm going to take it or leave it, And you know what? This book still has, just to illustrate how different we are as fans, it has a huge following of fans. I'm like, cool. Just because I didn't like it, it doesn't make it or good or bad, but because I think this author is very, very competent. He has written some of the best Star Wars material.
Yeah.
I just didn't happen to like it. What's your take on it?
I think for me, as someone who I saw, I think it was Blue Pig earlier, was like, we already have Master Apprentice. I don't really feel like I need this, but I'm gonna read it anyway. That's where I am today, and I'm looking forward to hopefully being surprised. Where I'm at, and we talk about this a lot, and we're going to talk about this with our second topic, the High Republic show. I'm really excited to visit with characters outside of this Skywalker era. We've had a lot of very satisfying, well executed, well acted, well performed, well written Kenobi stories, and we are on the precipice of possibly another weapon to his collection, another arsenal of the Kenobi fantastic moments. And so when I see another Kenobi announcement, of course I love Kenobi. I think the cover art really does look like Ewan McGregor. It looks like kind of younger Ewan McGregor, so I think that's kind of fun. And I love the homages to the focus on the prequels, where it's an era I grew up with. But this gets me less excited than A New Frontier. A new frontier of stories, a new characters to grow with. What I really love about any kind of new era of Star Wars, whether it's the New Jedi Order, which I'm reading, or the High Republic, which I'm reading, I love that I don't know what's coming. I love that I have new fresh faces to interact with, new villains to interact with, new heroes to grow to. And so when I hear about a Kenobi story, it very well could be another fantastic addition to the Kenobi lore. It's just not as exciting for me because I've spent so much amazing time with the character already. I feel satisfied. I don't feel lacking in any way, because this new Disney Plus show might very well show us the one area of the Kenobi story that I haven't been satisfied with, which is the post Order 66, wandering Kenobi, or maybe just wandering Santa Tatooine. So I feel like we're going to get all of the possible content we could have. So a story like this, to me, is less like, let's get the pulse rolling.
I'm surprised to hear it, Josh, to be honest with you, coming from you, because knowing your sensibilities, knowing you, like, I know for a fact that you kind of like share my mindset. We want to move away from Skywalker saga, but you, as a huge prequel fan, it really surprises me to hear that.
Yes, for the comment here, I have started reading New Jedi Order. I am behind, for those who joined late, I am way behind in my reading. I apologize, guys. I'm gonna hopefully catch up in the next couple weeks, but I have started New Jedi Order. I've really enjoyed it, actually, surprisingly. It's one of the first books that I've read in not audio form in a long time. I'm actually reading it.
Yes, join the club.
Yeah, I'm going old school here. But one thing that to respond to you there, Ben, the prequel era, I think was like, it's. I'm trying to think of the word to say this without sticking my foot in my mouth. Yeah. I don't need any more stories in the prequel era for it to be like at the end of Clone Wars season 7, I feel like I have the perfect rounded story. Bad Batch actually surprised me to come in and connect directly to the prequel era, like this little tiny, slot
kind
right
of
in
post, right? It's prequel going into post,
but with homages to the Order 66 right from the first episode. So where it's like, I'm seeing the prequels, like we talked about a lot, the Camino being this character, and seeing its kind of closing stages. So I'd love to see this stuff, but like, if I never see another prequel era content again, like I think I'm satisfied with that story. You know what I mean? It doesn't, now, like we talked about, I could be surprised. And we'll see Ahsoka in her own show, who's a prequel era character. But for me, like, the prequels they don't need anything else to enhance them. I think they've already, like, I was talking to a family member this week about the Clone Wars. And I'm sure you guys in chat, and Ben, you probably had the same experience, where they started to watch these live action Disney shows, and they're like, oh, who's this Cad Bane, or who's Ahsoka? And I'm like, oh, they're from the Clone Wars show. It's 7 seasons. And they're like, what? Why didn't I watch that? Where was that? And I'm like, hey, it's on Disney Plus. And I'm like, if you guys stick with it, like, if you go watch and you stick with it, you're going to get one of the best Star Wars stories we've had.
Right.
And I feel that way, that era had those 3 movies that I adore, and that 7 seasons of growth that, like, just with those 2 pieces of content alone are so satisfying for me. Now, we've had some gems in there, like
the
Dooku
Resurrection
Jedi
of
Lost.
Darth Maul.
Yeah, even I'm talking about like tertiary content. So like
Right.
Dooku Jedi Lost came in there. And it's like, oh man, another good prequel era thing, right? Like there, a Bad Batch like connects it at the end and has some like I can continue to be fed good prequels content, but if we never got another story in that
you would
era,
be happy with it.
I'd be fine.
I got you.
You know,
yeah,
you know what I mean. I feel satisfied. I think there are so many. I think one of the reasons that the sequel trilogy has you made that reference to a new Luke book, and this is The Shadow of the Sith, which is going to take place after Empire Strikes Back. You know, the sequel era to me, regardless of how you feel, like, you know, Ben here is a huge Last Jedi fan. I actually really liked Force Awakens, didn't love the second two films. The era to me doesn't feel like, it feels like there's gaps in it. It doesn't feel to me like a really seamless bow on it package. And I'm not sure there's really any way they can satisfy me in that way. But the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy, I feel satisfied with. Like, I feel like,
can I add something to it?
Yeah, jump in.
So, you know, you and I, we're slightly different generation, and it's very interesting with you and I, you know, on my podcast, which I can't wait to get you back in there, corner you, and just interrogate you for another hour or two. But we come at it from a different angles, and, you know, my perception was a little bit different. I remember when prequels started coming out in theaters, it was basically an entire decade, even more, focused on prequels, right? Because it's new fresh trilogy, there's a Clone Wars, there's new children's books, there's novels, and they really, really invested their time. And it felt like it got to a point where a lot of 80s fans like myself were saying, well, okay, we got enough content here, kind of like it, you know, it comes and goes in waves. And at one point we said, well, okay, we had enough there. Why don't we shelf it for a while? And where's that original trilogy content? Where's more of that stuff? Where's that live action Star Wars shows based on the original trilogy? And we sort of didn't get that. I felt that just when it started feeling like we had enough of prequels, they would introduce a certain book like a MedStar, Battle Surgeons 1 and 2, which focuses, the most popular character in there is Barriss Offee, which is not a very popular Jedi, right? She's just like a side character in there. But it was so good, and it caught fans so off guard that it reminded you one more time that this story is really, really good, no matter what period it takes place in, you will still kind of like come at it and you will welcome it because it's good Star Wars storytelling. Now with sequels, I sort of agree with you. Being a fan of sequel trilogy in general, I still criticize it for not fulfilling that true Star Wars potential. And as much as I enjoyed The Last Jedi, and, you know, sometimes I wage these verbal wars with fans in Facebook groups by saying that I love that version of Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi. The reason that I don't want to see anything with him or read any books with him, I honestly am not invested or interested in anything new. I don't want to see the next trilogy with Daisy Ridley or Rey. And I loved Rey as a character. I enjoyed
Rey a lot. I like Rey.
But the reason that I don't want to see it, and it harkens back to the beginning of our conversation, it really depends on where you come in the chapter of this franchise, is that I just did not feel that the sequels tapped into that potential. And because all of that negative stigma attached to them, which I personally don't share. Yes, of course, obviously Episode 9 is a deeply troubled film. Nobody's going to argue that it's an amazing, flawless movie. I just happen to enjoy it for shits and giggles, but, you know, it's not an amazing film. But the problem that has that stigma attached to it, I just like, no, I don't want that version. I don't want books come in and try to remedy what was there. Granted, I know I'm getting a little bit off the tangent here, but when the prequels were coming out, a lot of those original fans also find it very, very lacking, and also missing the mark, and also not tapping in the true potential of Star Wars. But guess what happened? Over time, all that expanded material, it reinforced the films, it made them stronger, all the books, all the comic books, it made it into something that you kind of look back on and say, like, well, I can't hate on it. Okay, so I don't find Phantom Menace the greatest film ever made. But all of that content combined, it's something substantial. It's something to really enjoy. Now with sequels, I don't know if I care enough.
We're not there yet. You know,
we're not there yet. Exactly. That's the point.
Yeah, we're not there yet. You know, I was thinking, I like the way you said that. Like, you know, for you, even though the Phantom Menace isn't the best movie for you, like the whole package of the prequel era has now mean something to you. It's now become something.
Yep.
And just to show everyone, we talked about this a couple weeks ago on the stream. I wanted to tell you guys it's up for pre-order for anyone who's
nice.
Feeling the
it only costs you a monthly rent.
Yeah, exactly. If you live in a cheap area. This is a fantastic sculpture that came out. I do want to give them a lot of credit for the work they did here.
Amazing.
The reason I had to pull this up as we were talking about this, as I was telling my family, like, you're missing out on some of the best episodes and moments in Star Wars by not having. I'm thinking of Siege of Mandalore, like that season 7 finale. There's just some really, really great moments, and the whole character of Ahsoka that you miss out on. It's just incredible to me that that's still a hidden gem to people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I just had this conversation in the last 3 or 4 days with a family member, and I sent them the whole chronological order watch guide. Like, hey, watching this order so you're not confused, and like stick with it, because it can start off slow a little bit, where it's like, is the kid's show? Is it? But the rewards you get, it's just, it's fantastic. It's just a fantastic package.
I would challenge any fan to tell me that it's still a children's show by season 4.
Yeah. Yes, I agree. 100%. I see Diamond here in the chat. Diamond, I was talking about this a little bit earlier. I am behind on Midnight Horizon. I know I am probably about halfway through. It has not been my favorite so far. I think it's just not a story that, and I talked about this a little bit with Into the Dark, where it just seems like there are stories when you read, these 20 books, it feels like we've gotten so far. There's just some stories that don't connect with you as much as others. And so far, I feel like Midnight Horizon, so far, which I've heard the second half is stronger than the first half for some. So far, I'm like, it's fine. It's not, I don't put it towards the top half of the High Republic book so far, but it's just not bad. It's just probably not for me.
It's not Batman good.
Oh man, the Batman. Well, we got it. Let's go to the next 40 minutes to talk about my review of the Batman. No, it's I was actually tempted, guys, too. So I have one non-Star Wars video on the channel. I don't know if I took it down.
No, you know what you should do? I'm sorry. You should tie it into the Star Wars topic somehow and just talk about that.
Well, I could. And we really could, in the sense that, like, what I love about the Batman and we loved about Dune. First, I gotta respect the comment here. I remember watching Clone Wars last year, and it's amazing. I watched it summer break and then watched it with my mom. Yeah, it's nice. What I love about the Clone Wars. I'm glad you brought this up, chat. Is that, like, it could hit all ages. Like, I could watch that with my parents. I could watch it with my siblings. I could watch it with my wife. I could watch it with my friends, and I feel like everyone could find something in there to smile with. I know my father-in-law actually recently watched the Clone Wars last year. For the first time after we encouraged him to do it. And he is an old original trilogy, like, super fan, but he's one of those fans who's like, he just loves that Star Wars exists. You know what I mean? Like, he loves that he can, like, he was really excited to see all the sequel movies. He didn't care. He just
sounds like my dad.
Yeah. He just loves to see them. Like, he loves to see Yoda back in The Last Jedi. Like, those just moments are really, he just loves it. And so he'll watch it all. And so he had not watched the Clone Wars, but he'd watched, like, Avatar: The Last Airbender, which was really good. And so I think that kind of opened his eyes, like, okay, like, animated shows can be, like, really, really great. You have to kind of get over that stigma sometimes with new viewers. And so he watched the Clone Wars, and it's like, I'm just thinking, what a world that he was open up to. What a world. Like, I just was thinking about how just juicy it is and rich in lore and character development. It's fantastic. I think more and more as I get older, we talked about this in one of our recent streams about how successful animated Star Wars is. I think it was the last time we got together. They are just fantastic storytelling with these throughout Bad Batch and others. So at the end of the day, for me, and this is going to kind of segue in, anytime the original point started off being, we're getting these canon stories, visiting old characters and times we've already been. How do we feel about that? Does that still get us excited? And while it doesn't get me excited, I could be surprised and exposed to great content, like someone tuning into the Clone Wars for the first time who didn't know.
Just keep an open mind.
Exactly.
You might be surprised.
As we are talking about TV shows, I made a video on this last week. I don't know if you had a chance to watch, Ben. I think a lot of you might have had the opportunity to see my video talking about a number of rumors that have been popping up related to a High Republic TV show. Now,
I glanced at it. I wasn't able to see the full
That's okay.
thing.
That's actually perfect. It makes this conversation fresh. There's been a lot of rumors, and I'll go ahead and share my screen now, over the last couple weeks. I've grabbed some of the most recent ones, saying that there's a High Republic show in development. And it's going to be live action. It's going to be the most recent round of rumors got very specific. They gave it a working title, which is Grammar Rodeo, which means they're actually like starting that pre-production. Jon Favreau is reportedly the executive producer, which would make sense. He's kind of a producer on everything Disney, Star Wars, that's on Disney Plus. And that John Watts is in talks to direct at least one episode. He did all the new Spider-Man movies, for those folks who don't know. And they're going to cast a group of a young cast. They're targeting young live action cast. We've heard a lot of rumors like this in the last couple weeks, in the last couple months. I am a firm believer where there's smoke, there's fire. I believe we are going to get a live action show in the High Republic. And it was reinforced by Eclipse. We kept hearing this rumor, oh, there's a High Republic video game. And we said, nah, I don't know about that. And then out of nowhere, game reveal, boom. I believe, I've said this many times, I believe Disney created the High Republic so they could have a lot of stories in an era unattached. I think that was a wise move, as we've talked about. And so with this live action show, I said I made the point that this was a huge deal. Like, I don't know if everyone knows like the High Republic, and people see my channel name and they probably think like, well, yeah, it's a huge deal to you because you're a big High Republic fan. But it's a huge deal for Star Wars because this is likely going to be the first live action full length show or movie that is not connected to the Skywalker
to anything,
saga.
To anything, really.
And some people have said, well, the Acolyte, I believe, and this is not proven, so I could be proven wrong, but I believe the Acolyte will connect to the Skywalker saga. I believe it will have some sort of connection to Palpatine. I fully
Palpatine,
believe that.
That's sensible.
So it might be more removed, right? But I think this will be the most removed, hundreds of years before. And I think that it's just huge because this is something we talked about in our last topic, and we talk about a lot in this stream, which is I think it's really important for Star Wars to go new places for the general audience. See, for the book readers like you and I, Ben, we've been to different places. We're going to different places now. We're meeting new characters. But for the general audience, they haven't known Star Wars outside of this era. And I can just think of the excitement it's going to reinvigorate back into the community, back into the viewers. I think it's a huge opportunity for Disney. And
you want a perfect example?
Yeah, come in.
A perfect precedent. 2003. A lot of gamers, right? Gaming is at its peak. PlayStation 2, PlayStation 1 is out, Xbox is out. I think PlayStation 2 was already out. That's right, it was 2002. And 2003, Knights of the Old Republic comes out. Barely anyone has read the comic, right? The Tales of the Jedi. Like, what the heck is this? Connected into some obscure Star Wars Dark Horse miniseries, 15-issue comic. We're like, what the heck is this?
Yeah.
You have to understand that at one point, before it became this mega phenomenon, go to day zero. Nobody knows what this Knights of the Old Republic is until people actually buy the thing, pop it into the Xboxes, and overnight, you have a miracle in your hands. Overnight, armies of fans are born around the world, and people are saying, more, we want more. It has nothing to do with Luke Skywalker, right? It has nothing to do with Palpatine. It is something entirely fresh. Well, it had to carve its little corner in the Star Wars pantheon from nowhere, from ground zero. It had to build itself. And I think a lot of High Republic fans or people who are in the periphery, like, oh, what is this? Like, I know it kind of is surrounded by these rumors, but I'm a serious Star Wars enthusiast. I still want to check it out. Should I dip in? Should I invest my time? Because time is also an issue. People can't invest that much time of their stuff that is outside of the main, canonical stuff. But if Disney is bold, if they put their money into it, and I think I hearken what you're saying, it's the smartest decision to do, to create a unique bubble within the Star Wars lore, to create something that people don't have stigma attached to it or preconceived notions what to expect. It's a whole new sandbox. That's what exactly Knights of the Republic was, and it succeeded. Now, how well it's going to do, it's all going to depend on the quality of storytelling.
Think about when the Star Wars Eclipse trailer came out. The buzz in the community, like the buzz from the biggest Star Wars High Republic haters, like, you know, the regardless of the game studio drama, I'm talking purely like when that trailer opened and it looked Star Wars, but it looked fresh and interesting and dark and unique. I mean, it was electric. I mean, it was absolutely. We were on here live.
You could feel it, man.
Yeah, we were on here live about 10 minutes after it dropped. Just conveniently, it dropped on a Thursday night, and we were buzzing. Chat was buzzing. Twitter, YouTube, everyone, Star Wars Theory, all the big names, all the little names, everyone was buzzing for this because that's what you can generate when you show or appear to show. I mean, we don't know how the game's going to turn out, but the themes they were playing with, just the character designs they were playing with were so interesting, so fresh, but yet familiar that we couldn't wait. I mean, I'm still very excited for the game. You know, hoping the studio drama all works out and whatever needs to happen there does. But if they could do that and capture that energy in live action, it's a gold mine. There was a big thing that happened this week. Okay, this was a big deal. It's going to sound silly, but I have some hope here. This week, Disney Plus added the Marvel Netflix shows. Okay, and you might be like, okay, why does that matter? Well, those shows are mature. Daredevil, etc., can be very graphic and bloody. And they added parental controls to support that because Disney wants to be that family friendly. Yeah, they want to be the family friendly, you know, whole family. So they were kind of hesitant, but I think they've seen the value in those properties. Yeah. And they're like, okay, so to support that, we're going to add these new, controls for families so we can put more adult content. So maybe that makes Disney feel a little more comfortable putting a more, because Book of Boba Fett is, it's not like PG, but it's like PG-ish. You know, it's pretty. So when you go see the Batman, y'all, it's PG-13. Keep that in mind when you watch it because, PG-13 can span a lot of different, different levels of adultness, I'll say. Yeah. But if Disney is starting to feel more comfortable by putting adult shows like Netflix, Jessica Jones, etc., and putting parental controls on those, that could be good for Star Wars. That could be very good for
Would
the
you
type
want
of
to
storytelling.
feel necessarily a mature Star Wars show?
No. I think a lot of times, as someone who's called a Disney shill many times, I have made the argument that a lot of times in Marvel, that they feel the need to hold your hand and tell you it's going to be okay. Like when a character goes through something bad, outside of Infinity War, which is why it's one of my favorite Marvel movies, they let you know it's going to be okay. So at the end of Civil War, this really emotional confrontation between Iron Man and Captain America. It ends with the dropping of the shield and Iron Man saying, that's not your shield, that's my father's shield. Fade out to white. Wow. Emotional impact, gut punch. They kind of come back in. They make a joke about, and then there's a cell phone message to Tony. Hey, if you need to get a hold of me, I'll be there when things get really bad. They let the audience know it's going to be okay. I would like Disney to not be so afraid of letting us suffer, letting us hurt. And I'm not saying that they've never done it, but they've seemed resistant to me.
I hear you. Yeah.
And so when I say a mature Star Wars, I don't mean like, John Wick out here in the Star Wars. I mean like,
mature in storytelling.
Yes,
exactly. Treating the audience like we are mature.
Daredevil to me is not like some raunchy adult show. It's not. It's just gritty. It has a certain grit to it. And I think that they're afraid that kids won't like that or that parents won't want their kids to watch it. So if they feel comfortable that parents can put those controls in place and they could give us that kind of gritty Star Wars, because Star Wars Rogue One, for example, is pretty gritty. It's a gritty. There's some, it's not as happy and fun as like a Solo, for example. I'd love to see them feel free to make not necessarily dark because that's such a buzzword. Not, dark,
I think what you're
like
saying is
grounded.
That you want Disney to find the niche without the niche within the Star Wars larger, canvas. Maybe there's a show somewhere there laying around that doesn't need to cater to everyone and be marketable for every age group. Maybe they will see that once they monetize something that appeals to a more narrow audience, they'll be like, we got another gold mine there, because that will revitalize the entire franchise as a whole. Yeah. What if we do get indeed that one video game, which honestly, even Jedi Fallen Order, right? While it's not a mature rated video game, it was gritty. It was dark.
Yeah, exactly. It's a great example.
Almost like they were drenched in these like unfamiliar waters. Like, hey, hold on a second. Darth Vader is this menacing? that's the great opportunity there.
That's a great example.
Mm-hmm.
And I see, so Anthony called some out here that I do think is interesting. He talked about like, if they're doing a High Republic show, but when they say young cast, do they mean kids? Because that's a good point. I would be that would be interesting to me if they did a show focused on Jedi youth, like real Padawan. Right. I think that would be a very tough show to direct. And I'm not saying it couldn't be done, but it'd be hard.
How young are we talking? Teenagers? Well,
I'm thinking, so let's play this game. So it's John Watts is tied to it. He did the new Spider-Man movies. He did all the new trilogy. So let's say Homecoming. Did you see Spider-Man Homecoming, I assume?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's like high school age.
Yeah.
I could see them that age. Like
that's
16
Luke Skywalker's age.
16 and up. Yeah, 16 and up feels fine. Yeah. I wouldn't want to see probably like an actual kid show, like a Disney Channel style, show. But if they did 16 and up, I could see that being a really successful age to follow. Especially if you're going to stick around for 4 or 5 years, you really feel the growth. I think one of the cool things about having a young actor, even like Hayden Christensen, like you do feel like you kind of grow with them a little bit, just because they're aging with you a little bit, if that makes sense. And you really see the age jump from a 16-year-old to a 20-year-old. That's a huge jump. It's huge.
You know what I'm thinking here?
Yeah.
What if, like, adding to what you're saying, what if they indeed go to that gritty area, but they pick younger actors, which are like 13 and up, when we go into that territory of that Stranger Things, which is a show, once again, it's more or less a family-oriented show, but man, it's gritty. Man, it's putting those like 9-10-year-olds through a meat grinder, according to their standards.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Even because I saw Blue Pig really talk about how like the Netflix Marvel shows are like really bloody, and sometimes it feels like a little like, all right, like, come on, like no one bleeds that much, right? And I agree. I don't need that from my Star Wars. But think about how in like even Harry Potter in the later books and movies 5, 6, 7, they go to dark places with our heroes, but never lose that kind of hope and that kind of they aren't like some dark, dreary stories. They just are okay with taking our characters to kind of that darker place. And I'd love to see them to do that, because I think, for me, Book of Boba Fett, one of its lacking qualities to me was it didn't feel very different but didn't say it out enough for me. Like some episodes, I think we've beaten this horse to death, but some episodes are phenomenal, some weren't. But overall, it didn't feel like it really was like,
it was too
wow.
safe.
Yeah, it was too safe. There you go. Thank you.
It was too safe. In that formulaic, happy ending, family popcorn entertainment kind of way.
It's too safe. And so I'd love to see them not be safe. We got a new era, so you don't have to worry about damaging those really strong connections to the audience, so you can be bold. I'd love to see that with this show. And I think Visions was where they didn't play it safe, right? Like, man, they did not play it safe. Visions. And it's great.
We are fans here, man.
It's great. And that's a perfect example. I love to see them do that. And so with these new parental controls, with these rumors of these shows, I think we could see something special here. This is a huge, there's fans of my channel who love the High Republic. There's fans who don't read it. There's fans who, whatever, it's fine for me.
Right.
It's not that this is a High Republic era show per se. It's that it's the first time we could see a real feature-length production outside of novels that is not connected to the Skywalker saga. And that's huge. Yeah. It's a huge deal.
Yeah, I'm excited.
It's the future. It's where they're going with storytelling. And the other shows that we know are in production right now, Andor, Ahsoka, Mando season 3, all those are connected at least somewhat to the Skywalker saga. Yeah. So even though they're telling their own stories,
Luke can't help but just like pop in for a second. Hey, where's Grogu? I'm doing something.
Even with the Ahsoka show, which will start to dive into characters like Thrawn and characters like Ezra, that are like, they're in the Skywalker saga, but they're not like connected to the core per se. Like if you showed the average Star Wars fan and we're like, hey, are you pretty excited for Thrawn and Ezra? And they'd be like, who? So like, I get it. They're not like my family, who I told to watch the Clone Wars recently, like, hey, you guys got to do this. They'll have no idea who Thrawn is if he shows up at a show. They'll have no clue. They'll have not a clue. So I do appreciate that those aren't like so connected to the Skywalker saga, but this could be even more removed, and that's just a new frontier. I saw someone say this earlier. I'd love to get your take on it, Ben. I forgot to highlight it. But they said they thought that the Eclipse trailer was far more hyped and discussed than the Book of Boba Fett trailers. And I think they're totally right. I mean, what do you think about that? I mean,
I'll tell you more than I would think. I actually started checking. As you guys know, I'm Russian American, right? I came here when I was 14. I'm like, let me see what my fellow Ruski guys are feeling the vibe with this video, like just to get that demographic, that part of the world. What is the buzz there? I checked out a couple of reactions from British channels. I checked out a guy who was like from Australia, and then I went to the Russians channels. Like there's a couple of really big Star Wars channels. Like, let me pick up the pace there. How are the people around the world responding to this? Bro, it was unanimous. People were like, and you know what's funny? Most of these reactions that I saw from people who were loosely aware of the High Republic, it's like on the first, like, whatever, it's, this, High Republic thing. We're not sure what this is. But every reaction was hearkening the same words. They were saying it looks gritty, it feels like Star Wars, and what I noticed in every single reaction, people were saying it looks fresh, it looks new. Finally, we're getting something. Dude, it's like something we've been clamoring for after the original trilogy. Nobody expected that Luke's journey would be continuing. We were all asking questions like, hey, what does this universe feel like 100 years in the future? Where else do you take it with these concepts of the Jedi and the hero overcoming the great evil without Luke being thrown into the formula? And that's how people responded to Eclipse.
In the most recent High Republic show, they're kind of like anniversary, end of January one. Jimmy and I did a reaction to it.
Yeah.
They have one of the executive producers come on for the initiative, and they're talking. And they straight up say, like, the High Republic's expanding to a lot of different media. We see Eclipse. Right. We see live action shows like Leslie Headland's Acolyte. And then he says, and there's other projects in the work that I can't talk about now. It's just confirmation to me, guys. It's a matter of time before we're getting a show or a movie in the era. It's a matter of time. And I have the Eclipse website pulled up as we were talking about this. They've announced the fact that the High Republic show is acknowledging these things. Like what started as just like a chance for the authors to come online is starting to expand to like, hey, there's games and shows coming. It tells me there's plans are big. The plans are big.
It's a major initiative. It feels exactly like those early days of the Shadows of the Empire, where it's like, oh, it's not just a book which is supposed to be treated by fans as the next chapter of Star Wars. Like Lucas was behind it, Mark Hamill was behind the advertising campaign, and then hey, it's not just a book. Here's a comic. It's not just a comic. Here's a video game. Or you checked out the video game. Here's an audiobook. And this is happening in the 90s. It was a huge deal back in the day, and people were just like absorbed by it. And this is like they're repeating the magic. Hopefully they were able to go look back at the old rule book and say, hey, if this was done once, why can't we repeat the same magic?
Yeah. I love it. I love the energy, like you're saying. I love the kind of energy. It gets me excited.
Yeah.
One thing that I want to talk about here, it was a slower news week. One of the big stories, if anyone who follows my Twitter knows, I've been tweeting the Batman stuff all week because it's a character outside of Star Wars. Batman is been one of my longest held passions. But behind these closet doors, if you open them up, I have every Batman the Animated Series Funko Pop. Like I have the whole collection.
Check out his cap, guys.
That
cap right there.
but I do. Like I'm a huge Batman fan, like most of us here. And we talked about at the beginning, as we were letting you folks come in, I talked about how I really love the movie. It wouldn't be for everyone. And you brought up, and we'll have a long conversation on this, but you brought up something that tied in so well to the last topic related to Star Wars.
Yeah.
One thing when you watch the Batman, when you guys see it, whatever you feel about the movie, I don't think anyone will ever disagree and say, well, it feels like studio formula. It feels like a big budget studio went to this director and said, all right, you can make it. One thing I said leaving the theater was like, man, I'm surprised Warner Brothers let him make that movie. Like it is not a crowd pleasing popcorn flick. To me, I hope crowds love it. It's doing good on Rotten Tomato. I hope you all love it. But they let the director they gave him 2 hours and 56 minutes. And if you guys don't know why that's a big deal, that actually limits box office because how many times you can show the movie in a day. That's why they don't like those 3-hour movies. So they just let him have it. And it made me think back to the sequel trilogy and how it seemed there were directors who had bold non-studio conforming ideas, and weren't allowed to express those. And when I watched this, I heard a reviewer say this, and I can't remember who said it, so I apologize, whoever it was. They said to the big studios out there, don't pick a director to direct your IP. If you got a big IP, don't just say, and for the folks in chat, IP means intellectual property. So it's like Star Wars is an IP, Batman's an IP, I said, don't go pick a director to do your IP. Find a director who's been working their whole life to tell a story about your IP. Someone who's been crafting and thinking and has a bold vision. Because whether or not this 3-hour detective style Batman movie is for you, I think it is executed really well, and it will be for some people, and it's different and it feels fresh. And I'd love to see Star Wars be comfortable doing that. I think they got scared in the sequel trilogy. I think they got scared with how the different directors had really different visions. And who knows who knows if the movies would have been good. Let me just clarify that. They could have been terrible with the original visions. But I just looked at the Batman and I thought, like, this is when a studio let a director kind of go all in. And I'd love to see someone in Star Wars have the same sort of freedom. So I really hope Disney opens it up, because as someone who's been called a Disney shill, I do feel Disney is not.
By the way, can I share that title with you? I'd like.
Yes.
Can we? Okay.
Yeah, as the Disney shills here, I feel like I'm not above saying that I do think Disney sometimes plays it too safe. Yeah. They are very comfortable with their winning formula. It's profitable, it's fan pleasing. And 9 out of 10 times, you have a great time going out to watch the next Star Wars show, the next movie.
But then you forget the movie the next day.
There you go. And
I want to add something to it. I think this symptom is part not just of Disney, but of Hollywood in general. And in my years of just like observing content and looking at films, it seems to be a cycle. It's not something that's permanent, constantly stays there. There's always strokes of innovation and boldness and like elevating the art form to up to here. And then there's a period of stagnation and going down and repetition and formula and just being boredom. And what's one good thing that drives this whole system is that supply and demand. If the fans stop reacting to all of this, like just shovelware, popcorny, kind of like safe, familiar stories, and it becomes tiring, and people are hungry for something more sci-fi, hardcore sci-fi, like Dune. When the Dune movie came out, I told my younger brother, I said, look, first of all, he loved it. Without any connection to Dune books, he loved it, and we discussed it. And he told me, I think it's a one-of-a-kind thing, and it's going to fade into obscurity, and then we're going to get more popcorn flicks. I said, no, hold on a second. What if this signals appear? Because Villeneuve, with Arrival and his previous movies and the films like Ex Machina, what if there is a couple of filmmakers out there who make serious films and they're trying to establish a new trend? They're trying to like scream above this formulaic cinema and say, no, I think the appetite is there in the audience right now to see something a little bit more cerebral, something a little bit more experimental, perhaps not with the happiest ending, right? Dune doesn't quite end on a happy ending. And once you have films out there that are successful, that are generating insane amount of revenue like Dune did in the middle of pandemic, I think it forces even the big guys like Disney, who were playing it safe. Same is happening in the gaming studios like Ubisoft. Once they get too familiar and too cozy with their Assassin's Creed franchise, what do? They go back to the drawing board. And same with Star Wars. They look at something like Dune or even Stranger Things, and they could say, oh, well, you know what? If people are getting too used to like Book of Boba Fett, and maybe perhaps some of their criticism is valid there from the fans, from people who love this stuff, maybe, just maybe, we can experiment something via High Republic, a lesser talked about niche in the Star Wars franchise, and give it a live action platform where it will push the boundaries. And let's see what the response. It's almost like casting a net out there and seeing what you're going to catch. And if the audience takes to it, you know what? They took to Joker and made it $1 billion mature rated comic adaptation. That's your signal right there.
Yeah, I think, first of all, to Nick, I want to say is, I love this topic idea. I've talked about it before on the channel. I'd love to visit it. I will write this down. We will dive into it. The concept, for those maybe just listening, is, are we getting too much Star Wars too fast? And that's a really interesting conversation, I think.
Yeah.
I'd love to have a talk about that in one of our future episodes. To your point, Ben, we talked about doing a lot in this. One thing I like about, and I hope you guys don't mind either. I know this is a Star Wars focused channel, but in these when we get on here for an hour with you guys, we wander because we're comparing things to pop culture now. So we talked about the Batman today. We've talked about Dune. For the folks who have seen Dune, and I hope everyone at least watches it once. It was phenomenal in theater, but I understand not everyone wanted to go out during the pandemic, or maybe they didn't have the opportunity to. So if you can rent it or watch it somewhere now, I'd highly encourage you, because regardless if the movie works for you fully, it worked for me. I went out and bought it first day it came out. When I watched that, if you were to imagine a very similar story structure and cinematography and film pattern, like take your lead character, take Paul Atreides, and pretend it's some young Jedi, and you take the houses and imagine there's some sort of houses during the Knights of the Old Republic era or whatever, and you watch that and you're like, man, there could be such an amazing Star Wars story in the same like vein, in the same much more, and it wouldn't be for everyone, and that's the thing. Like, I think studios need to be comfortable making movies that aren't for everyone. Just like I said, Midnight Horizon doesn't really seem for me. But hey, Daniel Jose Older wrote a book. He didn't care he didn't write it for me. He wrote it for him and his audience. And for those people who love it, they're really going to love it.
Yeah.
And if I don't, that's okay. At least it was something bold and different. And I think studios shouldn't be afraid of that. I was making a joke this week, and I don't know if this makes sense. This might be really stupid. So tell me how you feel, Ben. So Batman is sitting at like 85, 86%, about 250 reviews.
Right.
And I said, oh, that's perfect. I said, because when a movie's 95, 99, it means like it's got to be too safe for me. Or it could mean it's exceptional, but it probably means it's really safe. And like, it doesn't do anything to offend someone. So when I like Dune's an 83, Batman's 85, I'm like, okay, so it did stuff just different enough that it's going to not work for everyone. And that probably means it's a good thing. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's probably a good thing. I look at that
I think it's an excellent point.
Yeah. I'm like, that's a good thing because it did something brave enough.
It's an excellent point, because when I was studying at school, studying animation and film, and one of the points that one of my professors brought was so important and so crucial to like how I look at entertainment in general. He said, look, so long that a story or a movie elicits a response, it means there is something to it. It has gravitas, and if it is able to get something out of you, even if it's a negative reaction, like you hate it or you disagree or you're angered or you're happy, any kind of emotion, it means something is happening here. It means it's in the capable hands of a filmmaker or a storyteller who is doing something that is resonating, that is powerful. Because once you are, or if you're able to step out of your own point of view and say, well, look, if I didn't like The Last Jedi, and you're not trying to be hateful or talk toxic, it's bad. If I don't like it, it's automatically bad. Well, let me listen to what the other side is saying. Let me see what people who really enjoy it. And if you're really inquisitive, if you really want to ask a question and not just to ask it for the sake of arguing with people, you will find out, look, just the book that we brought in the beginning of this conversation, Obi-Wan Kenobi. I didn't like this book, not because it was poorly written. I thought it was competently written. I just didn't understand the set of ideas that the writer was pursuing. And then, I would go to Facebook groups and chat with people like, hey, did you like that particular Kenobi book? And the points that people present to me, it's Josh, it's the reason that you and I became buddies. It's the reason you and I we invested so much time to talking about prequels. And I think we'll spend even more time talking about them because we value each other's opinions. But hey, Josh, tell me what is so special to you about Revenge of the Sith? Why are you so passionate about it? I think when fans do that and are able to step out of their own little corner and appreciate how other people feel, then you begin to understand. It's like, hey, maybe The Last Jedi didn't quite do with Luke Skywalker what I would have done or where I would like that character to go. But hey, maybe there's something to it because other people are quoting it. Other people are making that part of their lives. Other people are putting tattoos of their favorite. One of my good friends, Michael, he put a whole tattoo of Revenge of the Sith here on his shoulder. The movie may mean not as much to me as it does to him, but there's some power happening there. The movie has touched him so deeply. My interest is that person is my friend. I want to find out why.
As you were talking there, I was starting to think of like a point to segue into it. And Blue Pig, like, kind of accidentally or purposely, like kind of went where I was too, where he was talking about, the chat was talking about Dune a little bit and saying whether they're interested in seeing it or not. And Blue Pig was like, it's probably something I'd watch with friends, but I don't really feel like sitting down with myself. And I had this thought recently about like the experience of seeing movies with others and seeing it with friends, because it goes into what you were saying there, where like, you know, a movie might not resonate with you, but if you go with someone you're close with, like I remember when I went to see The Force Awakens, and I saw it a couple times, but you know, I love to go to theaters multiple times, you know. And so the first group I went with was like all like, yeah, you know, it was like opening night. We were like, woo, you know, it was like, you know, great stuff. And then I saw it a couple days later with one of my other buddies who's more kind of cynical. It's hard to impress him. It's, you know, he's like, if it's not something special, he doesn't even really like to go to the movies that much. You know, it's just not his thing. And so having those two different audience experiences really kind of opens you up, because it's one thing if I go to a movie and I love it, and a stranger online doesn't like it, and it's kind of like, well, you're an idiot, like get out of here.
Yeah.
But if someone you care about or someone you like doesn't like it or does like it, it kind of usually will make you kind of evaluate your own position a little bit. Be like, well, I know this guy, you know, we're good friends, we agree on a lot of stuff. Well, let me hear why he doesn't like it. It makes you more open to hearing that criticism. You know what I mean? And so I think there's a really powerful thing about seeing movies or experiencing shows together that opens you up, I think, more to hearing differing opinions, if that makes sense.
There's one more component to that as well, is, you know, when you are surrounded by people that you more or less know, and you kind of like wait for a reaction from them, there's also, I think, a beautiful experience when you go and see a movie full of people who are not familiar, and it sort of either validates your feelings towards something or makes you part of the group that, you know, like you're watching. It's almost like being at a live concert where it's like, hey, are we all experiencing the same thing? And, you know, you actually reminded me of this episode when I was watching Revenge of the Sith in theaters. I believe I also saw it twice here and now on 42nd Street in New York City. And partially why I felt so deflated with the trilogy in general, you know what it was? It wasn't even me. I was sitting in theater, and without a shadow of a doubt, Josh, I'll tell you my first raw gut response to that film. I immediately liked it more than episode 1 and 2. Right away, I was like, dude, if I was waiting for that one Star Wars experience, this is as closest to it as it's going to get. I was enjoying the film, right? Yeah. And there were a couple of parts there in terms of like acting or scenes that just were taking me out of the experience. And I was really, really kind of like soldiering through with it because the majority of the experience was enjoyable. But you know what really, really drove it home to me, to my like, and kind of like solidified my experience with the trilogy as a whole, because this is the final film. This is 2005. We're saying possibly goodbye to Star Wars forever, because we didn't know if we're going to get any more films. So that's added significance to it. And as we're watching that final scene, and you see that very powerful and dramatic scene where you see Padme's funeral, it's a sad moment, and you know there's Darth Vader, he's stirring into this machine. Right. It's nothing amusing about it. It's a powerful scene, and I think, and I'm sitting watching it with a full theater of people, and everybody's silent, and you're sitting there like, oh wow, we're all sharing in this moment. And the moment that Darth Vader stands up and he does that legendary no thing, people into the they weren't even booing. One guy, I remember, very loud voice in theater goes like, man, shut the hell up. And the whole audience, everybody starts laughing hard. And I'm sitting there, I'll be honest with you, as a Star Wars fan, it was not a good experience, man. Like, I'm looking around.
That's fascinating.
I'm telling you, it was a really fascinating experience. I'm sitting with a crowd full of people. I'm like, guys, come on. Like, okay, it kind of sounds cringy, but
you New Yorkers, you're hard to please.
I know. Like, aren't you sharing in this experience, which is supposed to be a very powerful scene? So it kind of made me feel like I can't pretend that I like it more than I really do, you know?
It does impact. I have literally, because I see almost all movies, including, you know, every sequel trilogy movie, I saw multiple times in theaters. I see them all multiple times in theaters. It is amazing how the energy of a theater impacts watch. It really does. Yeah. I saw Batman vs Superman in 2 different theaters. And the first theater I was in was like, one was way more hyped than the other, like excited. And like the movie felt totally different, like totally different. Yeah. Cause I went on the opening night, like the Thursday night, you know, and it was still really hype. And then like all the terrible reviews started coming, which I disagree with, but all the terrible reviews started coming.
Yeah.
And, like,
I love
the next
that
day,
Yeah.
The next day when you got to the theater, like it's like that negativity had kind of seeped in where people were like they were no longer like excited to go see the movie. You know, like so you could kind of feel it like, oh, you know, and it was palpable. Like you could feel it. I mean, I know exactly what you're talking about. I remember, you know, Revenge of the Sith, you know, obviously my favorite Star Wars movie. I guess, you know, I didn't think about if I was in a theater where people all thought it was ridiculous and were like actively laughing at it. Yeah, it would probably have killed a lot of.
It didn't make me feel bad, like good about the movie. I'm like, come on, like stop shitting on it. Like I'm trying to watch a Star Wars movie that I want to love, you know?
Yeah, I do. It's, you know, I love to talk through these things with you guys about like theater. There we go. There we go. I love it. I love talking about theater experience. I love going to the movies. You know, I was talking to my family about this week. Some of my best memories are theater related. Going to see these Star Wars movies, going to see new comic book movies. You know, they're really, to me, like they're really special things to have with friends, family, very special memories. And that's the reason we love Star Wars, right? It's some of those moments that you spend with friends and family, and how it the impact it leaves on you. You know, those are
sometimes
really,
it makes or breaks the experience too.
And it's, I don't know. I'm a huge fan of movies, obviously. Like if you're a big Star Wars fan, chances are you're a big fan of movies because you probably got hooked in the movie. It's not impossible, but very few fans came through Star Wars via the books. It's typically the other way around. And so we're all huge fans of movies to be big Star Wars fans. And I can't wait. You know, one of the things we talked about, I think Star Wars has been really successful on screen, on the small screen in streaming, but I am looking forward to the next time we can go into the theater and see a Star Wars movie, you know, and hopefully have a hyped crowd. I hope they wait to Nick's earlier question about too much Star Wars. I'd love for them to wait another 4 or 5 years before we get another live action Star Wars movie on the big screen. I think that'd be really smart. I think fans will be ready in about 5 years to see a live action Star Wars movie. But I'm looking forward to the day again when we can go back to the theater and see Star Wars on the big screen. Yeah. It'll be good.
Hopefully not focused on any sequel trilogy characters. Please. Let's move forward.
Those are the main topics I wanted to talk about tonight. Hasn't been a huge news week. Ben, is there anything on your side, Star Wars related, you wanted to address from the last couple of weeks that we haven't talked about?
Nothing comes to mind aside from one thing I want to leave you guys with. Sometimes it's in your power to say like, hey, I had just enough of Star Wars for this week. I'm going to put it down a little bit. I'm going to go play some Cyberpunk. I'm going to read some Dungeons and Dragons. Sometimes coming back into it, I had periods where I would put down Star Wars Legends books for a month or like half a year and come back to it. And it feels fresh again. It feels new again. It's like, hey, I'm ready to jump in. Sometimes just because they're cranking out content doesn't mean you have to absorb everything. Now, maybe partially you are part of that Star Wars fatigue. You know, maybe it's in your hands to say, let me put it down for a little bit. I'm not feeling that, you know, Force Unleashed game right now. Like I'm not in the proper mood to enjoy it. I'll put it down. I'll come back to it. Don't be afraid to do that.
Yeah, I agree. I think even of all my favorite things, we go through waves of interest, right? Where like there's times where Star Wars is doing something, you're like back in January, it was like Book of Boba Fett. That was like all the energy, all the excitement every week. And I think it's nice to have that kind of lull because by the time Kenobi comes back out, our hype level is going to be back up through the roof because we had that couple month break. Hopefully Bad Batch season 2 comes out soon too. Really
hopefully that trailer comes for Kenobi. Like, what is that trailer, man? Let's get the hype going.
Disney Plus has been really aggressive, like on marketing, like right before, like a month, 6 weeks right before it comes out. Like they do not promote it way in advance, which has been interesting. And I'm not saying it's a bad idea either. It's just for the fans, it's kind of like, aww. Like not to keep talking about the Batman, even though it's kind of the big thing right now. I remember when that trailer came out at DC Fandom 2 years ago. Now it got delayed because of COVID. It was supposed to come out in October of 2021, but man, the anticipation of those 2 years waiting was kind of brutal. You know, it was like, so you know.
I mean, Avatar trailer came out a year before James Cameron Avatar.
Oh my gosh, Avatar 2 comes out this year, guys.
Oh, I can't wait.
Oh man,
didn't he film like 15 Avatar movies all in one shot?
Yeah, I think it's like
that's
4.
exciting.
I
like that formula. right? The Lord of the Rings, the Hobbit route, where you film everything together and you give me a movie per year.
Yeah, I like that too, and it feels very cohesive then because you filmed it all in that time.
Yes.
One topic to wrap out here: Galactic Star Cruiser. I have not done a lot of looking into this. I'll tell you why. I have seen some stuff. I'll comment. One of the reasons why is like when I went to Disney World, I had done zero like looking at any of the rides. I didn't want to know what Rise of Resistance was. I didn't want, and I think that was awesome because when I rode Rise of Resistance, which is incredible, I think Rise of Resistance is a ton of fun. If anyone can get to Disney World reasonably, it's definitely worth it. You'll have a blast. It's really cool. I think that made it special. For the off chance one day I do go to this Galactic Star Cruiser, if I sell my kid,
Disney starts officially sponsoring.
Yeah. I wanted to go in like fresh because I think that will make it better. I think if I watch it all first, then I won't be it. But I'll probably never go. Let's be honest, guys. But I'll tell you a couple things I saw. I thought the rooms looked really nice, like fun. I thought they looked really fun. As I've said many times, I wish they just made a Star Wars themed hotel. Like there's resorts all over Disney World. If you guys have never been before, they have a ton of different resorts you can stay at. They all connect to the parks via different ways. They're all different levels of pricing. They have like luxury, etc. If they just had like a hotel, like no experience, just a hotel you could stay in for 5 nights that was Star Wars themed, like I think that would have just been a better idea, in my personal opinion, because all the experience stuff from what I've seen just doesn't look like it would appeal to me. It looks very cruise shippy, which like it is a cruise, so but it's just not my scene. That's how I feel about it. I saw some videos though, like that do remind me, like
talk about that Oscar Isaac video.
I said that was kind of funny. I saw like one video of a kid who went like as part of the press showing and was like bawling his eyes out when it was over, like an 8-year-old. And I was like, this is who this is for.
Yeah.
8-year-olds with rich parents. But it really is. I mean, it really is. I mean, that's who it's for. The acting is hammy. Like it's hammy. It's over the top, the castmates, but it's meant to appeal to when I was younger.
Kids.
When I was younger, I remember I was in Arizona, see the Grand Canyon, and they had like a themed like train ride. Okay. And it was like, during the ride, like bandits come up on horses and jump on the train. And I was probably like 5 or 6, I was young, but I can still remember it. But I remember like, the actors were really hammy. They were bandits and all that. It's like that, that's what it is. It's just super expensive. It's super expensive, but I mean, that's who it's aimed at. I mean, It's just it's not aimed at you and I, you and I wouldn't, again, if it was just a Star Wars themed room, I mean, okay, that's kind of fun. And then you could go do like the stuff around.
Can we talk about Oscar Isaac's acting?
I'm trying to think of, when did they put that out? Was that like Tuesday? When did they put that out?
A couple of days ago.
Let's see if I can.
Man, if you are questioning Oscar Isaac's acting level, bro, it's on point in that trailer.
You know why he was there? Probably Moon Knight.
Yeah. Man, he was selling it hard. Oh boy, I believed I was in Star Wars just by looking at his beautiful face. Like, guys, this is gonna rattle you to the core, man. Go to the hotel. And I'm looking in the background. He's asking about the Twi'lek performance. He obviously knows about it, and they're trying to, yeah. By the way, we have it too. He's like, of course you guys have it. I'm like, and I'm still asking in my mind. I'm not trying to be jaded. I'm just like poking stupid fun of this thing. I was like, bro, why the music number? Why can't I have Twi'lek standing on top of that bar and just like duking it out, man? Like, who is thinking this through?
Think about the missed opportunity of not putting Max Rebo in there.
The who?
Max Rebo. If you have him at the Galactic Star Cruiser with his, blue elephant-looking body, I would have been in. I would have gone first. I think it opens.
Hondo Onaka, make him serve my drink, dude. Like, perform something. Have the Imperials come in and apprehend him in the middle of like giving your drink off, something like that.
This is what the chat, I forget who mentioned earlier, was like. I think it opens to the general public next week. Yeah. So I'll be very curious to see what people who actually paid to go think.
But no,
it's a whole different ballgame when you paid to go. What's up?
No cameras.
I think they're allowed to. Yeah. I think you're allowed to.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll be very curious. They had like the press tour last week. This is like general public this week. I'm very excited to see what like average people.
Star Wars Theory will be there first day.
No, I don't think so. I don't think he has any interest in going. I would. Hey, look, if Disney called me and said, Josh,
I was him. I would.
Yeah. If Disney called me and said, Josh, you Ben and Jimmy, you're gonna go. I'm there tomorrow, baby. Let's go.
Yeah. You're not interested, report. Like, hey, here are my findings. I think you're gonna improve A, B, and C. If you're the concerned citizen, if you're a huge Star Wars fan, you can afford it. Why not?
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, I think that's it for tonight. We are in the lull of Star Wars before we pick right back up. Bad Batch Season 2 this year, Andor, Mando Season 3.
Unannounced project, Asper is
unannounced,
hyping up again,
unannounced,
right?
yeah. Sheesh.
More games.
More games. Golly. Jedi Fallen Order 2, probably out, but probably get a trailer or an announcement. I mean, so much stuff. Kenobi in just a couple months. It's going to be wild later this year. Thanks, guys, for stopping by. I hope everyone's doing okay. I know for a lot of folks right now, it's a busy time of year. It's a stressful time of year. Hope everyone is taking care of themselves, doing well.
Be safe out there, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. If you have the opportunity, go out this weekend. If you're fortunate enough to be able to go check out The Batman. I'm a big fan. If not, enjoy some time with family and friends. It's good to remember the important things during kind of crazy periods like this. So we appreciate all your support, guys. Make sure you like and subscribe. We will see you guys again very soon. Until next time, guys.
Take care, folks.